I hope guys you are able to see my screen. And thank you all
Yes.
for joining this session. And good morning to good evening to each one of you here. And
My
good morning. Okay. So I'll take 2 minutes of your time to help you understand what I am basically, right? So maybe some of you know me a little earlier as well. This is for those who doesn't know me, right? So this is Shiva. So I have been working as a Azure data engineer and then data analyst from last 13 years. We also use data engineering tools and services other than Azure, basically, in my day-to-day project activities, that's what I mean. And I work for multiple. I work for, guys, can you please go on mute? So if you have any questions, maybe you can try to unmute that time. Yeah, thanks for that. Right. So I've been work for multiple different companies, and now currently I'm working for a MNC. And so with that, guys, now I'm a professional. I'm not only a trainer. I'm a working professional as well. With respect to the skill set I carry, across my 13 years of experience, I started my career as a SQL developer, and then I got a chance to work on MSBA technologies. So wherein I worked on SSIS, SSRS, and then SSCS. And then from the last 4 years, to be precise, I've been working on Azure. Right. So we use multiple different Azure services, and then we use Power BI as a reporting layer, and then we also use SQL Server as a database layer, basically, right? So these are the different tools and technologies that I use across my different projects that I work at. I guess that's about me in short. I guess. So without any delay, I'll help you understand what we are going to learn today, basically, or what we are going to understand as a day number 1, basically. Right. Since you are able to see my screen, let me put my screen on slideshow. Oh, yes. Guys, I'll take the questions in the last. But guys, if any one of you have any questions or so, you can raise your hand. You can raise your thumbs up on Zoom link. So as and when I get into the questions, I'll just go by you, basically, right? Otherwise, I'll try to cover some of the topics and also the services that we are going to cover across our tenure. Right. Yeah, thank you for those who are responding by chat. Right. So what is the agenda today? Right. So the primary agenda. Abhi is requesting recording. Guys, I have started recording the session. Please don't try to record the session. Right. It's going to create a conflict. But I've seen some people were trying to record the session, basically. Right. So questions will be taken in the last. Right. So for now, I'll help you understand what is cloud computing, the benefits of on-premise and then the cloud. And then we will also see what is Microsoft Azure and why we have to learn Microsoft Azure. And then also we will see the difference between SSIS and then ADF. So given that, first let me help you understand what is cloud computing. Right. So even before we get into understanding of what is Microsoft Azure, what is Data Factory, what else, right? First, let's try to understand the very basic concept of what is cloud computing, right? So guys, we must be knowing, what is a server, right? How a server works and how a storage works. See how you can store some files on a given server or on a given machine, and how you can install and how you can connect to any database. And then we know what is networking, and then the software, how we can install a software, and then how you can configure them, and then analytics and intelligence, right? So if you are able to access these services or able to access these activities only via internet, right? Only via internet, then it is nothing but cloud computing, right? It's nothing but cloud computing. Say, take the vice versa case. If you are able to access them only via, even without internet, that means via the LAN cable. Let's say we are all in one single company, and if you are able to access them via a LAN, right? It is nothing but on-premise. Guys, now with that, there are two different terms we have to understand in the cloud. The first one is the cloud. If you are able to access them only via internet, it's nothing but the cloud. If you are able to access them even without internet via LAN cable, it's on-premise. So therefore, let's try to understand, where is my pencil? Yeah. Let's try to understand the difference between on-premise and then the cloud, right? So guys, on-premise, right? We must be working on-premise like every other day, right? So maybe knowingly, unknowingly, right? We are working on on-premise services and then the technologies. Let's see the difference between on-premise and then the cloud, right? With on-premise, see guys, let me, take you, explain this with an example, right? Real life example. See, definitions can even Google and then understand basically. Let me give you a real life example. So let's say we all are in one single company. So we are working in a company called, ABC. And then say we got a project. Say we got a project. And guys, to start a project, what is that we need? First of all, the first thing first, we need the budget, right? We need the budget. And then we need the requirements, the specifications, and then we also need the infrastructure. Right now, let's say our organization, say we are in a startup, just to simplify the context. So we are in a startup, and then our company have loaned some X amount, right? Say X amount. And then they have purchased the required infrastructure, and then say they have purchased the required license, and then say they have also purchased the servers, right? See, to develop any project or to make your project run 24/7, we need to have a server that should be running 24/7. Say our startup have purchased them with the capital that they have raised. And then say we have the requirements, and then say we have developed the product, for next 6 months, right? Next 6 months. And then say when the end users were trying to access it, or when we try to reach out to the clients to marketize our product, say there are no takers. Say there are no takers. So rather we are getting negative feedback on the product that we have developed. And we concluded the product that we have developed is a flop, right? There is no show for that. So that means whatever the capital we have raised here is gonna waste. And also we have spent 6 months of time on that particular project, which is also waste, right? So that is the case if you are on-premise. Upfront cost is high. So that means first you need to have the capital raised to start working on any project, right? So in this particular example, we will be raising the cost to purchase the infrastructure and then the server. And then see when we have a server, there should be some employees who have to manage the server 24/7, right? So say we have utilized that capital for that particular infrastructure. Now let's take the same case on cloud. So cloud runs on pay as you go model. That means you no need to have a capital to start working on your project. Just have the thought, just have the requirement. No, you can start working on the project right the moment you create the account. I guess, take any cloud. That can be Google Cloud, that can be Microsoft Cloud, that can be Amazon Cloud, right? So we can create the account right at this moment, and then we can start working on the project. Since cloud works on pay-as-you-go model, right? The fee or the payment that we are going to pay is going to be only for the duration that we utilize the service. Say as an example, say for the given month, say for the month of February, we have utilized that cloud service only for 40 hours, say for 40 hours. So we'll be paying only for that 40 hours, not for the entire month. Right? Say again, take the same context. Say we have developed our product on the cloud for the next 6 months. and then say we have paid somewhere around, no, 0 point X amount. It will not be X amount for sure. It will be way less than what we have spent on premise, because here we are not going to invest on the infrastructure. We are going to invest, or we are going to pay to that particular cloud computing service provider only for the duration that we utilize the service. Okay, so that's how it works. So here maybe we'll pay only even less than half of the amount that we have spent on premise. So that means we will see a lot of saving. Right? So we'll see a lot of saving there. And what is next? So we have no automatic updates on premise, and we have automatic updates on the cloud. So along with that, upgrading is not flexible on premise, but upgrading is flexible on the cloud. So what does this mean? What does these 2 points is going to make sense to us basically? See guys, you take any application, or let's say, any banking application, to be very precise, see those applications will have some downtime, right? So applications will have some downtime. For that application to get updated, upgraded, maybe bug fixes, or maybe they might be rolling out the new features and then so on. So that means the applications which are running on premise will have some other way, there will be some downtime, right? Because their updates will not happen automatically, and also upgrading will not happen automatically. You need to bring your application down, then you need to upgrade and then update or apply bug fixes, or maybe add new features to the existing application. But whereas if it is on the cloud, no downtime is needed. You can update, you can upgrade, you can install the patches, maybe you can do the bug fixes, and you can roll out the new features as in when the customer is using your application, as in when the application is on live. Because that's the biggest advantage that we have on the cloud. And you know what, guys, the Microsoft claims their services are up to 99.99%. So that means there might be a downtime of 0.001%. 0.001%. Just listen to it carefully. Right, so that's how our cloud computing services in these days claim basically. Right, so that's the easiness, that's the flexibility we have being on the cloud. Right, and the last one in the list, data cannot be accessed remotely, but whereas with the cloud we can access the data as simple as that. So what does that mean, right? So guys, during pandemic and even now, many of us, I think everyone have worked from home, right? It's no exception to anyone, right? Everyone have worked from home. But guys, even now, we work from home, right? So but the question here is how we are connecting to our company servers, right? So some other way we have to connect to our company servers, right? How we are connecting? We will use VPNs, right? Virtual private networks. So wherein via that particular application will connect to our company servers, right? But VPNs comes with restrictions. Not sure if you know it or not, VPN comes with restrictions. You might have to go beyond that restrictions to connect to your company server if you are trying to access it from home, basically. Now let's take the same case with the cloud. Data can be accessed remotely. So that means you can sit anywhere in the world, across the world, you can sit anywhere. As long as you are able to access the internet, you will be able to connect it to your cloud environment. So that's the major advantage that we have being on the cloud. Yes, so these are the 4 major reasons what we have and why we have to be on the cloud. Right. And the next slide, let's try to understand Microsoft Azure. Guys, given that knowledge, what are the various different cloud computing service providers that we have in the market, right? The first one being Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and then, guys, it's Alibaba, and then Tencent. Of course, the list is big. Let me stop here. The top 5. The top 5 cloud computing services currently in the market are Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Alibaba, and Tencent. Okay. I'll take questions in the last, guys. Yeah. That's how, the math it is. Now let's, try to understand Microsoft Azure, right? See, initially it was started with the name Microsoft Windows Azure, sorry. And later it have been renamed as Microsoft Azure. Microsoft Azure. What is this, first of all? What is this? It is a public cloud computing platform. Public. So that means for people like you and me can go ahead and then create the accounts and then we can start utilizing the services. Right the moment we create the services. Right? So it's a public cloud computing platform, basically. And they provide various different services that ranges from databases, ranges from IoT, compute, analytics, storage, networking, whatnot. Guys, Microsoft Azure have 200 and plus services, like a database, like a data factory, maybe some services related to the compute, analytics, and then so on. Basically, it supports or it have 200 and plus services. So wherein we can create the account and then start utilizing those services according to our needs, according to the business requirements. We can develop a project from the scratch, or else we also have the capability to migrate the existing application to the cloud. So let's say, as an example, let's say your company where you're working, have a project that is running on premise from last 5 years. Say from last 5 years, your organization is working on a project or with a client. And say if you have to migrate that application from on-premise to Microsoft Cloud or Azure in short, yes, it is possible. It is possible. See here. We can as well run existing applications in the public cloud. That is also possible. We can develop a project from the scratch, as well as we can migrate our existing application to the cloud. Right? Either ways, it works. But guys, remember, nothing is free on Azure. So there will be some cost associated. Right? Guys, we'll talk about the account creation and then the cost and then so on as and when we progress. Right? Since it is day number 1, I wanted to keep very lightweight, right? Very lightweight. Right. So let's try to understand ADF in short. Yes, ADF stands for Azure Data Factory. Right? What this is, first of all, Azure Data Factory, right? What is this? This is a cloud-based ETL. It's a ETL which runs on the cloud. Okay, which runs on the cloud. ETL stands for extract, E stands for extract, T stands for transform, L stands for load. Extract, transform, and then load. Simple example. Say we have data in a CSV file. Yes, of course, my writing is not so good with mouse, but bear with me. Say we have data in a CSV file. Say we have data in an Excel file. Excel file. And say we got a requirement from the business users. Guys, assume we are all data engineers. And say we have a requirement from a business or the customers saying that, boss, I have data that is available on multiple CSVs and then multiple Excel files. So you were asked to have this data in a centralized data repository and then help business users to understand it. Right? If you have such a cases, that's where ADF comes into picture. With ADF, we can extract the data that is available in these particular data formats. Extract is in a general English term, pick the data out from these sources and then transform, change the way it is, maybe adding new data, filtering down some data, filtering down some rows, maybe on the columns, maybe adding new columns, pivot, unpivot, sorting it, grouping it, right? These are all transformations. And then load the data, right? Instead of having the data in multiple different Excel files and then multiple different CSV files, with Azure Data Factory ADF, I can load that data into a centralized location. Centralized location. So now my business customers can go and just get the data out from single source rather than from multiple different sources. Right? It simplifies. See, our work as a data engineer is to simplify our business or the business user's life. Anyway, we'll try to elaborate that point in our coming sessions, but that's what in short, guys. Right? Azure Data Factory have started available from 2015, and it has become popular from 2019. Right? Like I've said, it's a cloud-based ETL wherein we can develop a data-driven workflows. Data-driven workflows. And these data-driven workflows, technically in Data Factory, is called as pipelines, guys. These are called as pipelines. The ETL process, what we have discussed just a moment ago, is technically called as pipeline. So that means we can develop various different pipelines to answer business questions. As simple as that. Right? Say for as an example, right? Say, now we have loaded multiple CSVs, multiple Excel files data into one single database, right? So now we can answer some of the business questions saying that, what was my sale for the country India yesterday? What was my sale for the complete February month, 2024? Maybe say, what was my sale? And give me the comparison of the sales between United States and then India, right? Maybe, bring my sales information, or, maybe the profit information, maybe the expenses information out from the data that we have between these two countries or multiple states. So that can be any given question, right? If you have the data available in that given source files, yes, we should be able to answer them, right? So we can answer such a questions, right? Maybe saying that, what was my sale yesterday for the given product? Say for the laptops, what was my complete 2023 year sales? Am I in loss? What is the loss? If I am in the loss, what is the loss if I compare January, February 2024 versus January, February 2023? Right? So we can try to answer such a questions if we have data with us, right? And ADF supports 90 plus sources, guys. See, in this particular example, I have given you CSV and Excel as an example. Say you have data on Google systems, say you have data on Microsoft systems, maybe Amazon systems, SAP system, Oracle system, IBM system, Salesforce system, Snowflake system, whatnot, right? Azure supports close to 100 sources. I guess close to 100 sources it supports, wherein we can connect to that particular source using that ready-made data connection that we have. And then we can develop the complex ETL processes, and then we can run them. And then also we can view how the data is getting extracted, transformed, and then loaded also. Right? So we have that capabilities in Azure Data Factory. And look at this architecture, guys. Look at the architecture. So in this architecture, I have tried to, where is my mouse? Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Say we have three different sources. Yes, we have three different sources wherein we have critical data, say hospital data. Say we have financial institutions, say, bank, say any banking, bank transactions, and then say point of sale. Say we visited a Walmart store physically, and then wherein if you purchase, some product, right? So we'll have point of sale, so wherein we might pay and get the bill and then get out from the store, basically point of sale, POS. Say you were asked to extract data out from these sources and then load that data in a centralized data repository, right? Now the data is being spread between three different systems. So here, by making use of Azure Data Factory, ADF, in short, Azure Data Factory, I can extract the data out from those sources, and then I can place it in one single location. It is called as data ingestion. In the data ingestion, we can load the data as is from the source. As is. We don't perform any transformations, most likely. Else, I can also process the data. So that means I can perform transformations. That means I can clean the data. I can, transform the data it is. That means I can remove the bad data, right? And I can only keep the data that is necessary for my business to analyze. So if you think that specific column data or that specific table data or that specific data is not needed, we will clean them up. Okay, so that is also possible with Azure Data Factory. Once we have cleaned and transformed data, we can have tools like Power BI, Tableau, MicroStrategy, maybe Excel, maybe SQL queries. We can write them on top of the data that we have, and then we can of course we can analyze the data, and then we can deliver that visuals to the end users to understand how their business runs. Okay, now given that there are two parts here, let me split this architecture into two. Guys, we are data engineers. We are going to become data engineers. We are here to learn data engineering. Right, guys? Starting from extracting data, transforming data, and then loading data. Till here, it's data engineer's responsibility. DE, data engineer's responsibility. Extracting that means connecting to the data that we have loaded, and then maybe developing some visuals, say bar graph, donut chart, pie chart, map, whatnot. Maybe you can also call them as dashboards. It's data analyst responsibility, DA, data analyst. So yes, now the market have no companies are recruiting people based on the designation rather than on the technology. Right. So here our designation is data engineer. You know what? I'm a senior data engineer in my current company. My role on papers is senior data engineer. Earlier, I worked as data analyst, but from last 4 years, I've been exclusively on data engineer. Right? So that's our responsibility. Our responsibility is to make the clean and transformed data available for data analysts and maybe for the business customers or maybe for the end users to extract data and then understand it. That's where we sit, guys. And then the last slide for today. So let's see, SSIS versus ADF. Guys, SSIS stands for SQL Server Integration Services, right? And ADF stands for Azure Data Factory. Right? So now you might have a question saying that, why, Shiva is trying to bring that difference between SSIS and ADF. The reason being, guys, SSIS is a on-premise tool, so wherein we can install on our machines and then we can develop ETL processes. And you know what? SSIS is from Microsoft. This is also from Microsoft, and ADF is also from Microsoft. And ADF completely runs on the cloud, so you need to have a internet connection. But for SSIS, you might not need to have an internet connection, given all your servers and everything is on that particular machine. Right? But ADF completely runs on internet. Right? Anyway, I'll show you shortly, guys, how Azure looks like. Right? ADF is a service, and we could consume and pay it on demand. Like we have seen, Azure Data Factory runs on pay-as-you-go model. But wherein SSIS, first you need to purchase the license. You need to have the infrastructure first. That means you need to have the capital first, and then you can start developing on the project. But with ADF, it's not the case. We can just create the Azure account and then start working on the project, right? And the second point of the list, SSIS is administered via SSMS. SSMS is one another tool, guys. So wherein we can deploy our SSIS packages, and then we can schedule from there. And of course, we can develop the SSIS packages, SSIS ETL processes via Visual Studio. But ADF is administered via Azure portal. How we can access Azure portal? Via browsers, saying Chrome, Firefox, Edge, and then so on. Right? So using those browsers, we can connect to Azure Data Factory, and then we can develop various different ETL processes there. And ADF and SSIS have its own scheduling infrastructure. See guys, generally we also schedule our ETL process. Say you have to run that specific process, daily once or monthly once, quarterly once, right? ADF have its scheduler inside the data factory itself, wherein SSIS has to depend on something called SSMS, sorry, SQL Server Management Studio. Basically, it doesn't have any internal, scheduling infrastructure, and it has to depend on a third-party scheduler. Right, guys. That's about agenda that I wanted to cover. Hope this have given you some information on what is cloud and what is Azure, and especially what is data engineering and then data analyst, and then how we can make use of data factory to solve or to answer ETL capabilities. Right. So now, given that, I'll just also help you walk through two things now. So the first one being the services that we are going to cover during our sessions. And then I'll take a few minutes to help you understand how a Azure account looks like, given the time, basically. First, the most important thing is, let's try to understand what are all the various different services that we are going to cover. Yes. Yes, we'll start with Azure SQL Server, Azure SQL Database, Azure Data Factory, Azure Logic Apps, Azure Databricks. Here we are going to learn PySpark, or PySpark. But of course, it supports multiple different programming languages, guys. PySpark is one out of that. We will also try to understand here about Spark clusters. Spark cluster. And we'll also have Azure Synapse, Azure Storage Account. In Storage Account, especially, we are going to learn Azure Data Lake Generation 2. And these are the primary services, guys. So other than that, we will also see Azure Resource Group, Azure Tax, and then GitHub, and then Azure Data Studio, and then Azure Storage Explorer. Right, did I miss anything? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, I think pretty much, guys. This is what we are going to cover across our tenure. I guess. And guys, we are going to record each and every session, and then starting from day number 3. So today is day number 1, guys. Starting from day number 3, I'll start sharing the recordings as well. Right, so that if by any chance, if you miss any session, or if you have to revise any of the topic, yes, you will have the flexibility to go through it.
Can we have the today's recording?
Yes, of course, I'm going to share it starting from 14th of March. You just have to bear with me for 2 more days. Right? I'll just create a common group, guys, and then I'll start sharing from there. Right. So guys,
so are we going to get this PPT as well?
No. This is just for explanation, because PPT, we have only 10% of information, but 90% of the information I have explained, basically. So it's only 10%.
Okay, so sir, are you going to give any notes and all?
Pooja, can you just start with me 5 more minutes? So I'll take the questions in the last.
Okay.
You can raise your hands, guys. Guys who wanted to ask a question, please. We have multiple people in the group. See, day 1 and day 2, we will have little more members. That's the expected case. Maybe starting from day number 3, we will have only enrolled students. So there we will have less number of students. So even you will have better flexibility in asking the questions, right? So just bear with me for 2 more days, guys. Maybe day number 1 and 2, if you have any questions, please raise your hand. Right. So I'll take 5 more minutes. I mean, maybe even not 5 more minutes, even a little less than that, maybe I'll try to help you understand how a portal looks. So just give me a second. So let me first get into my account. I'm not sure, guys, how many of you have exposure to Azure here. But guys, let me also put it this way, right? So my sessions will help people to gain knowledge from basic level to intermediate level, right? So we'll start from what is Azure, why do we need it? From that level we are going to start, and then I'll help you, to get into a comfortable zone on Azure, basically. Azure Data Engineer, when I say Azure, because Azure have 200 and plus services. So not possible for anyone on the earth to learn all 200 services, right? So we'll be primarily focusing on that particular services that I've just shared with you. I guess, just, to help you understand how Azure, portal looks like. This is how it looks like, guys. And then if you go by the more services, of course, tomorrow I'll spend some time on the portal. And this is just like, very high level knowledge that I'm trying to share here, guys. Guys, these are the various different services that Azure supports. Like I've said, see here, data factory. Let's say if you have to create data factory, yes. So this is the particular service that we use to create the data factory, or to work on the ETL process, basically. So likewise, see, we have discussed about many different services, right? So say, Logic Apps. Logic Apps is one service out there. Say Databricks. Databricks is another service out there. So how you will find it? See, there should be a search filter button here. Say if you have to create a Databricks environment, you just have to type in Databricks here. See, there you go. So we have Azure Databricks. I guess in such a way, maybe you can see in this particular account, I have created some of the storage account, SQL database, SQL server, resource group, and then data factory. Yes, but I don't want to confuse you with a lot of information on day one, guys. This is just a quick look on how the portal looks, and how the portal works basically. Yes, of course, there are some procedure that you have to follow to create the account. All that related information I'm going to talk in the further sessions, not on the day one, basically. Not on the day one. Guys, I'm open to questions. Just please go ahead if you have any questions that you wanted to talk, from the slides, or if you have, any question, in your mind, or anything, that you wanted to discuss on the syllabus that we have on the screen. Guys, I've seen a question in the chat. Yes, like I've said, we are going to record each and every session, and I'll be sharing starting from 14th of March. Okay. Yeah, Santosh. Yeah, please go ahead, Santosh.
Hi, Santosh. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi, Santosh. Yeah, go ahead, Santosh.
Actually, I'm a database administrator. I want to move to data engineering. Is there any prerequisites? SQL important? Is any programming also important, like Python?
Yes, see, we use, see, when we talk about programming, that's a good question, guys. Maybe most of you might be having, guys, just to reiterate the question that Santosh have raised here. So how far, how much knowledge we need, on the programming to be on Azure, basically, guys. Just to give you some clarity over there, we'll be using Python on Databricks. Only this particular service runs on programming language. But other than that, we don't use any programming language, but we'll use some expressions in Logic Apps and in Data Factory. But in SQL Server, of course, we'll write the queries, right? But if you talk about prerequisite, guys, also, the point is being raised by, Santosh. See, the prerequisite, just to say, if you have little understanding on how the data looks and how you can, save some data in Excel file, say in an Excel file, and if you have some, capabilities of, saving the data, reading it out, that's good enough to start, guys. That's good enough to start, right? Because we are going to start with SQL Server. right? So I'm going to spend a day or two on how we can create SQL Server, what is that? And then also I'll try to run some of the queries on SQL Server, right? So that will help you some knowledge on how we can as well, make use of SQL to read data out from the database that we are going to have. I'll explain what is server, what is database, and then so on, basically. Yeah.
Shiva, will you teach SQL also? I mean, joins, city
On one day,
tables.
yes, absolutely, guys. We'll spend one day. That means 1 hour for SQLs. I'll try to cover some important topics that might be needed on the SQL basically. But we don't spend too much of time on SQL, guys, because our agenda is to cover the actual data engineering topics. But if any one of you have or need any exclusive help from me, you are always welcome to reach out to me. Yes, underline it. You are always welcome to reach out to me. Maybe I'll try to give you some guidelines on how you can improve your SQL knowledge.
Any project also will work on.
Yes, of course. At the end of the session, I'll be explaining you the end-to-end implementation of a data engineering project. But theoretically, see guys, we are going to learn so many different services. Maybe you might have a question saying that why the hell we are learning all these services? Why do we need all these services first, right? So at the last, we are going to discuss why do we need all them? Because I wanted you guys to first have the knowledge of what these services are. Only then I can connect the dots for you, right? So at the last session, yes, I have a very nice data set, guys. So which I'll explain you in the class saying that, what is that data set? Why is that data set? What you can do with that? Why you have to utilize only that data set? And what is that you can extract out from that data set? I'll explain you end-to-end implementation of it, but you are the people who are going to work on it, right? I'll give you the complete knowledge, starting with why you have to learn all the 10 services, on what combination you are going to utilize this service. See guys, if you have a project, we don't use all these 10 different services to work on a project. We'll use some combination of services, right? We will also discuss them during our last session, or as and when we reach to the end, because I want you guys to first gain the knowledge of these services. Yeah, Preeti, please go ahead, Preeti.
How much of Python is needed for Azure Databricks and doing the coding, and how hard is it for starters with Python?
Yeah. So see, the expectation is we don't use too much of Python basically here. And the Python that we are going to write on the Spark clusters is relatively easy when we compare with the Python that we write on any standalone clusters basically. But I'm going to run you through 6 different scenarios, and then I'll try to help you understand each one of you here, on what we are writing, why we are writing, how we can write, and how we can improve our PySpark knowledge also. But guys, maybe I would say maybe some knowledge on Python should be good enough to go. The reason being, in Databricks we can also perform analytics using SQL, using plain SQL, select star from table name, and we can as well use that in Databricks. How you can use it, why you have to use it, how you can ease your life on Databricks, I'm going to help you.
Okay. The other question I have is, do you also focus on blob storage when you're talking about Data Lake Gen 2, or?
No, we see blob storage is like a traditional system, right? Generation 2 is the latest in place, right? And generation 2 have all the capabilities that a blob have, and it is much more advanced than a blob. So given that knowledge, no, we are not going to cover blob because it's a traditional old, storage system that we have, a storage account that we have currently with Microsoft.
Okay. And so which means we will be going through all the hierarchical elements and all that, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. And in terms of logic apps, why exactly, where would we, how needed, like what?
We are going to automate a portion of a scenario that I have.
Okay.
As when I get there, I'll explain you why do we need logic apps, why do we need that scenario first, and why we have to depend on logic apps, and how we are going to integrate logic apps with Data Factory. first I have to, help you understand the scenario. Only then you can understand, why we have to get into these, multiple different services, right? So maybe as and when we get there, I'll try to explain, end to end.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, perfect. Yes, anyone else? Yes. I can see, there are some people using the chat. Guys, please try to, talk. What is the difference between Azure data engineer and then analyst? Okay. Guys, I think we have just discussed anyway. Let me, again, I know why my mouse is not working. Sorry, guys, just give me a second. My mouse stopped. Yeah, now it is working. Yeah. So guys, Azure data engineer and then data analyst. We just discussed about them, but again, let me help you understand, for the person who have raised it. See guys, this architecture we just discussed, and this architecture is having two different roles, two different designations, to be very precise. This is where data engineer sits, DE, data engineers. So this is our responsibility. I am a data engineer. I'm a senior data engineer in my current organization. So this is my responsibility. My responsibility is to find where the data is, understand it, extract it, transform it, load it, and keep the data ready for data analysts. So this is where data analyst comes, guys. So from this one, right? Maybe say Power BI, Tableau, MicroStrategy, Alteryx, whatnot, right? So those are all the various different tools that we have for data analyst. Data analyst role is to connect to the data that we have transformed and then cleaned. So they can connect to our data, which we have loaded, and then they can develop various different dashboards and then visuals for the end users to consume it. Right, guys? That's the typical, difference. And also I've seen, there's a question from a person. So I'm working as SQL support engineer. I've been working since 4 years. Is it a good time to move to Azure data? And guys, absolutely good. Absolutely good. See guys, listen, let me ask you a question, right? So this is a good question to discuss, right? Guys, take your time. Just tell me a project or a tool or an application or, a service or, whatever you call it as. Tell me a tool or service which doesn't populate any data, which doesn't generate any data, right? See, the mobile now, which you are currently using, keeps on generating the data. We are on live, we are connected via Zoom. It is generating maybe gigabytes of data, right? See, there is no tool, no project, no service, no application is available in the market or in the industry that doesn't generate any data. Data is a fuel, right? Data is a fuel, basically. Yes. As this is the right time for you to move, basically. Okay, Shiva. Hey, hi, Shiva. Migration expert. I guess, absolutely, yes. Since you have some exposure to ETL, just, try to, gain some knowledge on, Azure as well, because cloud is the future. So there is no other way of saying it, right? So if you look at actually I have a chart, maybe I'll show it to you on tomorrow. So it gives you the comparison between on-premise ETLs and on-premise services versus cloud services, but from the chart, we can clearly say cloud is a winner, right? So there is no other way of saying, basically. And the duration, guys, it's a good question. So the duration is 1.5 months, guys, and timings are going to be 9:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time, IST. 9:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. 1 hour we are going to travel every other day from Monday to Friday. I guess Monday to Friday. We will not have sessions on Saturday and Sunday. It will break on Saturday and Sunday, but from Monday to Friday is what we are going to travel. Yes. Any more questions here? Okay, suppose you have joined this course. Okay. Okay, so I have a question, from Pooja, maybe the difference between data load, and then data ingestion, basically, right? See, data ingestion is something where you are extracting the data, but of course it's loads the data. It does both. It extracts the data, and then load. Load means simply you are placing in one place, basically. Actually, these both terms are correlated, but you have to dig little deeper to exactly understand the difference, basically. If there is no ingestion, there is no load, basically. Thanks. Hope that answers your question, Pooja. Yeah, go ahead, Preeti.
So would you be giving any like assignments or any practice things on like daily basis, or after every topic is covered? How would that be?
Once we get on to the topic, guys, I have few practice scenarios wherein you can also practice it, but not right away, guys, because first I have to help you understand and then take you through various different services. But once I feel you are in a comfortable position to actually take practice questions and then do it by yourself, right? So I have few questions as such. Maybe I'll share it to you as and when we reach that particular time, basically.
So also, how about the subscription into the Azure portal? Like, you have the free 200 credits, right?
I'll explain about
the-
the account. Maybe it's too early, Preeti, because we have very beginners here. I'll discuss
Oh,
about very clearly, line by line, about them. There are various different options that we have to create the Azure account. I'll explain you all the different options that we have, basically. Right? Just wait for a day or two, basically.
all right. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I have 5 more minutes. Okay, guys, if there are no questions, so what we are going to start tomorrow is we will try to understand some of the cloud concepts, which are very important, for you to get onto Azure services. We'll try to, first start with that. And most likely from day after tomorrow, excuse me, okay. I'm sorry. Right. So maybe from day after tomorrow, we will start with Azure SQL database, and then Azure SQL Server. So we'll start with some of the cloud concepts tomorrow. Same time, yes. I'm going to catch you at the same time. Guys, the link which you have received today will not work for tomorrow. Guys, listen to me carefully. That link will not work for tomorrow. You have to get a new link by contacting your point of contact. Go ahead, Pooja.
Hello. Hi,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah.
So, sir, if we have any doubt after class or during when we learn or on our own, so how we can reach out to you, sir?
We are going to meet in this class every other day for the next 1.5 months, guys. It's a good question, basically. So, guys, generally I do take the questions first and then I'll get on to the session. But let's say if the question that you have raised is going to take a little more time, maybe I'll try to break it for some time. But I'll help you answer your questions also during the sessions. Right? See, that's a practice I'm following from last 4 years, guys. There's nothing new for me, basically. Guys, yeah. 3 more minutes, guys. Any other?
Shiva, when you say every other day, is it like alternate days or every day from Monday to Friday?
Monday
the
to
class?
Friday. Yeah, every other day. No, sorry, I'm sorry if I bring a confusion, guys. We are going to have Monday to Friday every day.
Okay.
Monday to Friday, 9:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. IST, Indian Standard Time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I did it. Adil, I can't hear you. Maybe you can use the chat. Maybe you have some issue with your, this.
I said, thank you.
Okay, guys, if there is nothing, we will actually get on to the concepts starting from tomorrow. So maybe the day one is like to help you understand what is cloud, what is Azure, what is that we are going to cover, and what I am, right? So now most of you now just got to know what I am basically. Right, this is how we are going to travel. So I'm going to share the Zoom links every other day, guys. Most likely I'm going to generate it every other day. But if you have any issues with your link or so, please contact your point of contact. Right. So given that, thank you each one of you for joining the session again. And
Thank you.
I'll catch you all tomorrow, same time. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye. And guys, one last
Thank
thing,
you.
if you have any questions and if you wanted to reach out to me, yes, please, you can contact me through your point of contact. Right. Thank you so much, guys. See you. Bye.